So welcome everyone to my presentation called Alternative Societal Solutions to Pharmaceuticals in the Aquatic Environment. And thanks to Raisa for introducing me already. That will save me some time, I guess. I had not really a clear idea of how many of you would know the University of Twente or our research group even. So I put this small picture of our very green campus which is located in Enschede, right in the bordering region and also in the Vecht catchment, which was our study region in MEDUWA. And the staff involved in the MEDUWA research from our university was Professor Arjen Hoekstra, Marcella Brucknach, Martin Kroll, Rick Hochebaum, and myself. And the study I will be presenting today was also contributed by all of my colleagues that I mentioned here. So, I thought, how am I going to start this presentation? It makes because it doesn't necessarily directly link to the greywater footprint. That was one of the that was the main innovation that we were contributing to MEDUWA. So I thought I will explain you a little bit about our first ideas, or how we came up with the idea of assessing pharmaceuticals in the environment from a broader, more societal perspective. And that is, of course, the topic's complexity and facets. And on the one hand, you saw that already in Raisa's slides, that is the MEDUWA medicine chain approach that made me think of, okay, how diverse this topic really is. And on the other hand, when I started my literature PhD, I noticed that the previous research mainly focused on the environmental, chemical, and technological aspects of pharmaceuticals in the environment, and not so much on the societal ones. And there's also this very nice paper by Dorton, which I'm citing here, that shows exactly that, how many publications there are on pharmaceuticals in the environment and how little there is on the societal aspects, even though I got more and more the feeling that it is very important to look also at the societal aspects, because the way we as a society supply and use pharmaceutical is the main driver of the pharmaceutical pollution. And as the next idea or aspect towards this idea, that came when I was working on the greywater footprint work. And one goal for the MEDUWA project was also to assess the potential greywater footprint reduction by different innovations. And there I saw a clear focus on the improvement of wastewater treatment technologies. And then I was thinking more and more, okay, there's actually quite a lot of shortfalls in this focus, even though the technologies might be very valid and important by themselves. But none of those technologies have proven to successfully eliminate all substances. And there's really not enough knowledge about long-term remaining effluent concentrations, even though these concentrations might be very low, but we really don't have a clear picture about that. There's doubts about added cost, feasibility, and reasonability of implementing such technologies, especially if we are looking into the global picture, where in many countries there's not even a sewage infrastructure. And also it's unclear if we can remove substances that are developed in the future. Or at the last point, I found a shortfall in, we are actually not addressing the pharmaceutical life cycle chain with this approach, because we, for example, neglect everything that's happening in the agricultural domain. So that that lead us to this investigation of the study that was recently published in the Journal of Clean Air Production, and where I'm going to be presenting the main results today. So the first starting point for us was to look for a suitable theoretical framework that helped us to analyze the situation or the societal aspects of pharmaceuticals in the environment. And we found this multi-level perspective, which I'm going to be outlining very briefly to you. So you have to imagine the pharmaceutical life cycle as the socio-technical system. So this is basically the frame in which pharmaceuticals are supplied and used and also emitted. And that system exists of 3 analytical levels, which we distinguish to do our analysis. And that's first the landscape level, which is the exogenous context of the system. So in our case, we framed it as the practice to, or the societal perception and practice to supply and use of pharmaceuticals. Then we have the regime, which is the space where actors interact. So the different sectors that are related to the pharmaceutical chain, such as pharmaceutical industry, healthcare sector, livestock sector, that are maintaining the system and that are acting due to rooted functions and rules that have been established over a long time. And the third level is the level, which describes emerging innovations that, could be novelties to reduce or avoid pharmaceuticals in the environment. That's, by the way, the abbreviation that I use, PIE, for pharmaceuticals in the environment. And that could be taken up by the regime. So a bit of background on the theory that results from transition research. And transition is basically a shift from one regime to a future regime, whereby the landscape and niche level kind of push the regime or influence the regime in order to its future state. And our research uses the multi-level perspective to structure what alignments of change at the different levels can lead to distinct futures regarding pharmaceuticals in the environment. So we collected data from literature as well as through 15 semi-structured interviews from or with people from pharmaceutical industry, the healthcare sector, and the livestock sector. And I will present 2 parts of results to you today. So the first part focuses on the analysis of the current socio-technical system. So mainly asking what is the drivers at the moment that influence pharmaceutical emissions. And the second part, we will present solutions based on pathways that were framed also by transition researchers earlier on. Well, so coming to the results of the current socio-technical system of the pharmaceutical life cycle, first we looked at the landscape and the landscape characteristics and changes that affect pharmaceuticals in the environment. And there we found out that priority is clearly given to human health and partially also to animal health over environmental health. So we did quite some policy analysis, etc., and we see that our society, as we define our values and morals at the moment, is it's more important to us to use or benefit from medicines over the potential damage that we do to the environment. And on the regulative or policy levels, we also identified several developments that target also pharmaceutical emission and target for the reduction of pharmaceutical emissions. So we have the watch list under the Water Framework Directive or the environmental risk assessment when authorizing pharmaceuticals, etc. However, there's no limit values, for example, to pharmaceuticals. So there's no, let's say, threshold or anything that says, okay, here's the line, this we can't cross. So this is different, or what makes pharmaceuticals, for example, different to other chemicals. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I saw Raisa. I don't think. Did you want to say anything?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay, sorry.
No, nothing happened.
I saw your picture and heard something. So
no, but it's 2 more minutes, Lara, if possible.
Oh, wow. Yes, we societal structures like demographics. We saw societal trends that percept livestock production pretty critically. Well, in the current regime, we also identified different dynamics, let's say, of the pharmaceutical industry. So there's certain lock-ins in the human health sector. They have a clear priority on curing humans rather than on the environmental aspects of pharmaceuticals. And in the agricultural sector, there's a clear driver of efficiency and economic profitability. So yeah, and then the last level was an analysis of the niche innovations, and well, we have a pharmaceutical chain here, and as you can see, basically in all steps of that chain we were able to see some innovations occurring. However, none of them have been, or most of them are only adapted in, let's say, a pilot scale, and there's really in the trial period, not introduced at large scale. So coming to the second part of our results, which are the societal solutions, and I will make it rather quick because my time is limited. The first societal solution we identified was accepting pharmaceuticals in the environment. And basically, this is a reproduction of the current regime as we have it. So there's no significant pressures from the landscape or the niche level. Maybe there's one innovation taken up by the regime, but it's really not a significant change. The second societal solution is implementing several innovations that I showed you along the pharmaceutical chain. They could be taken up by the regime and cause a kind of reconfiguration of the current regime. So that would cause less pharmaceuticals in the environment, but still the regime with the existing sectors would remain. And the third societal solution would be rather complete system change. There we noticed some difference between human pharmaceuticals and veterinary pharmaceuticals. So that typically is structured in a de-alignment phase, where really the current regime is let's say, destructured due to strong pressure from society. And in the next phase, a new regime would be created that is really a completely new system. And for the human health sector, we saw that while it was really a kind of thinking that, we should take pharmaceuticals at last resort, so it wasn't a complete avoidance. Whereas for the veterinary sector, we heard stakeholders saying, well, hypothetically, if we didn't eat any animal products anymore, we would remove our entire livestock production. We wouldn't have pharmaceuticals from that sectors entering the environment. So we saw kind of differences there. And while that leaded to some conclusions or recommendations to those three solutions. So for the first one, accepting pharmaceuticals in the environment doesn't require change it, but pharmaceutical pollution will most likely remain. the second solution, where the niche implementation takes place, yeah, this will probably have some effect on pharmaceuticals in the environment, but we don't really know how large that is. However, due to all the current developments we see, this is the most likely solution. And the third solution, the transition to a new regime, well, we don't see a lot of happening there, because it really would require a major system change, entailing completely different way of thinking and societal pressures, etc. Well, and this I already said, I think, and well, I will close with this comment. We also identified diverse requirements, responsibilities, requirements and responsibilities to those changes, and while also present those in our studies, and they really lead from financial, regulatory, technical, organizational aspects. Yeah, it's a rather broad set of requirements and barriers, and if you're interested in that, you can check out our publication. And well, I had a slide for discussion, but as Raisa introduced earlier, we will do that in the end, I think. So thank you for your attention.